Welcome to Round Hill Radio. Through our conversations, we discover the holy in the ordinary, look for moments of grace and peace, and redefine what we're talking about when we talk about faith. Hey, Liliana.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome back.
Yep.
So we were chit-chatting, as one does, about what are we going to talk about today. And I'm excited for our little smorgasbord of things to discuss.
I want to give the warning that we have been talking for a while and I feel very giggly. So
it's going to be one of those. We'll try to back up every time we giggle,
I don't know.
I keep maxing out the mic when we do that.
I
might actually turn our mics down just a little bit.
So we then the screen.
So we have a little bit of headroom there.
So if we talk quieter,
you can at least laugh without bending backwards. Yes.
Okay. So
you're. I feel like you're already getting a good glimpse of what the episode's going to be about today, which is just us a little bit on. It's been a weird week. It's been a weird. But 2026.
But we're approaching a very exciting season.
We are approaching a very exciting season.
Well,
words are hard.
I think it's a very exciting season.
Okay.
Some people think.
Why do you think it's an exciting season?
I think it's an exciting season. So the season what we are approaching next Wednesday. I don't know when this podcast is coming out, but
when I edit it,
February 18th is Ash Wednesday.
It is.
Now, that's one of the bummer holidays. And it begins the 40 days minus Sundays of Lent.
Mm-hmm. Which also is seen as the most uplifting.
It's seen as also a bummer season.
Yeah.
Because most people remember Lent only as I can't have sugar that month. Or whatever that ends up being.
Sure.
Or fish on Fridays or whatever that is for people.
Sure.
But I would love to talk a little bit more about Ash Wednesday and why I love it, and a little bit more about Lent.
Okay.
As a season.
I like all of that very much. Because I will say it's sort of interesting, especially that, this has been a pretty intense weather-wise winter here.
My mom keeps texting me about cold fatigue.
Cold fatigue?
Just being...
Tired of it being cold?
Yeah, but also there's side effects of you're inside so much more.
Sure.
And it's kind of impossible to go for walks outside, so you're trapped in a very real way and moving less in a very real way.
And also your body is working hard to keep you warm, so it's probably telling you to sit down in other ways. So it's just it spirals. Yeah. It's not comfortable. Yeah, Mary Bear's school, they are not allowed to go play outside when it's this cold, so they are just all inside.
And it wears you down in a way where at first you're a little break, and then day after day of you not being able to do things that you used to rely on to keep your head clear.
Right.
And it's just hazy and hazy and hazy.
Yeah, that's a real thing, which is contributing to the slightly probably wacky Leslie Lillian you're getting today.
That's the energy we're bringing into this season.
Yes. Thank goodness for my little walking pad at home. That's all I can say. That gave me some sanity yesterday. It was a real thing. Mm-hmm. So let's start then with Ash Wednesday.
Yes. Can I ask?
I'm glad it's not on Valentine's Day this year. That makes things easier.
So
it was a few years ago.
I was in divinity school when Ash Wednesday and Valentine's Day were the same day.
Okay, well that makes sense.
And we loved it.
I'm sure you did.
We got so many little candy hearts that said you are dust. It was the most adorable. Everyone is having a grand old time. But that's because we were at divinity school.
You're at divinity school, and that's what you do.
It's very chic.
Yeah. Yeah, you make the most of it.
I think it was 2 years ago. Oh, so fun.
That was something.
But yeah, what are your experiences? Because you've worked in churches for a very long time, and you've worked in a variety of churches. What are your experiences, preconceptions of Ash Wednesday?
Ash Wednesday. Do you know from a church staff point of view, I think of the sort of humor that staff tends to find around it, which is there's always the joke of get your ashes to church, which is always a very fun play on words. And then I always enjoy, there's a meme that I try to send out every year that is the Rorschach test of ashes with the different kinds of crosses that, and there's little jokes about it. It's respectful. Yeah. But it makes me giggle in church nerd giggle kind of way.
There are challenges and you want your ashes to look nice.
Yeah. You want to do a good job. I respect that when it comes to And as the clergy person doing, have you
Yeah.
imposed? Is that the word we're using? What word do we
I
use?
feel like you could use imposed. I would say I can say given ashes.
Given ashes.
But
yeah. I think for me, it's interesting because there aren't a lot of hymns about Ash Wednesday.
That's interesting.
There's a ton of like Holy Week hymns.
Yeah.
And there's like Lord who throughout these 40 days. It's like the one. And then you kind of have to
Lent one, yeah.
Then you kind of just sort of go Lenty. But
Yeah.
you're not in Lent yet. And so this year I'm really trying, because you're doing a really interesting thing thematically for Ash Wednesday this year.
We'll get there.
Okay. We'll wait. We'll tease. So I'm trying to figure out how I can. It's encouraging me to sort of like explore a little bit.
And it like gives you a little more room to play with.
I appreciate that very much.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But I think Ash Wednesday, at least at the limited experience, and I'll also admit, like this is my first full-time call, and I have worked in churches before. Ash Wednesday is a service that I feel like can get kind of forgotten about and can get kind of like people are like, oh, do I want to go to the Ash Wednesday service?
Yeah.
And so certain churches I think certain churches, people will show up in force because they want their ashes. And certain churches, fewer people will make an effort to go to a midweek service.
Yeah.
Which is already like a difficult scheduling
The
thing
timing
for many
of it
people.
makes it really hard for sure, especially when like culturally, maybe not everybody in your office is gonna like leave to go to their churches, and if it's not like an accepted thing, it's just hard to like if you have a meeting, what are you gonna do? I will say I really appreciate that it's this kind of initial transitional service, because to me Christmas is the end of the season. Easter is the end of Lent. And Ash Wednesday for me, as somebody who I like beginnings, I like those little like kickoffs because it gives me an opportunity to sort of like explore, maybe try something new. And I like that it gives us an opportunity to we not only mark the end, but we mark the beginning in a nice way.
It's the beginning of this season. So it's the 40 days of Lent minus Sundays. And you have, it's the 40 days, Jesus is 40 days in the wilderness. So this is kind of this time of reflection. Ash Wednesday, specifically reflecting upon your own mortality. And this time of kind of maybe fasting, maybe looking at a spiritual focus or a focus upon spiritual growth. And it's supposed to be a time of, for many people, kind of reflection and turning in and saying, oh, like, we know what's coming. And that thing that is coming is Holy Week, which on the one hand, people are like, oh, the thing that's coming is Easter, so this is my other pet peeve, which we can explore more about, is when people don't come to midweek services, which I understand, they go straight from Palm Sunday, woo, palms, parade, to Easter, woo, Jesus.
Right.
And they miss the fact that in the middle, Jesus gets murdered.
Yeah. I like how I said that, like, obviously. But
it's one of those things where it is. And so Ash Wednesday, it is not a part of Holy Week, but it is this very grounded, very mortal, tangible service where you're like, we know what's coming. And what's coming, yes, is Easter, but is also death.
Yeah.
And
darkness.
Is also torture, and is also this darkness which is ahead of us. And so how do we prepare not only for the beautiful joy resurrection, but also for, I think that Holy Saturday is a very special day, because within the liturgical calendar, Holy Saturday is the one day where, for this brief moment, there is no God on earth with us. And what does that mean for how because like in this moment, you can hold kind of like liturgically or like metaphorically, like on Holy Saturday, they were told Jesus was coming back, but they didn't know.
Right.
And so there's this moment where like we are given permission to be like, what does it look like to exist in this reality where you're like, I don't know. And so anyway, Ash Wednesday is a service that similarly holds mortality and holds this very serious air, but also like a very tender, in my experience at least, where you'll often hear like, you are dust, or from dust you were made, from dust you will return.
Right.
I've had some pastors go like, from stardust you were made, into stardust you will return. And there's this very tender, to me, like, you were created, you will die again, but in this moment, like, there is this very, like, I don't know, like, centering, gathering experience of simultaneously, you know, in the middle of February, like, but also like, here we are together as embodied creatures. And isn't that special?
It's super special. I always really like those special midweek services. They always feel...
Come to Maundy Thursday, come to Ash Wednesday.
Yeah, please go.
They're sad ones and we like it.
They're amazing. But they're amazing. And I like being... You know, there's always a thoughtful element, I feel like, to our Sunday worship, but it's always, we always want to really bring the energy and bring the joy and bring the community aspect of it. But I think the midweek ones, there's something, you know, we can always reflect in private, right? We can always have our time of study and introspection in private, but there's something really beautiful about doing that together and being together in a time where like the topic is maybe not the most joyful thing, but like being the togetherness of that, I always feel like I feel closer to the people who come to that in that moment. Like, it's such a beautiful expression of togetherness without anyone really doing anything necessarily. They're there for their own faith and for their own spiritual enrichment, but at the same time, like this intangible togetherness adds so much, I think, to it, you know?
It's like we're all going down a path, and it is beneficial for the world in many ways for you to think you are alone.
Okay.
Like, it is, not to get all, like, it is beneficial to kind of like the forces that capitalize off of our, and I'm getting all, I'm getting on my soapbox.
It's okay. Like, no, it's okay. Go ahead.
When forces in power are like, oh, you're alone. If you want to do anything to make this world better, you are completely alone when you do it. If you want to do anything to make your life better, you are completely on your own as you do it. And when you realize that that is a fiction we are told to take power away from ourselves, because number one, like, I remember when I was a young person first starting to get into like deciding like what is right and what is wrong, there was this part of me that was like, oh my gosh, like, I have to do everything myself. And then you hit a point when you realize like, oh, other people feel the same way as I do. And actually, other people older than me have already begun things that I can join. And I think there's a lot of pressure being put on like starting something, but I'm like, sometimes you gotta, like, the reason joining an organization or joining a movement works is because someone put a lot of effort, like someone who, I don't know, not like someone who knew more than 15-year-old me, like put a lot of effort into doing something. And so as we exist in a world where like it is beneficial for like even as simple as like, it's beneficial for the company that sells lawnmowers for you to be like, I'm completely alone. I have to buy my own lawnmower.
Right.
I cannot ask my neighbor to borrow their lawnmower.
Right.
I don't have a neighbor. I'm completely alone. I cannot ask to borrow this.
Yeah.
Or like, and so when you are in a service like Ash Wednesday, where you're like, my experience of my own mortality, my feelings around being a human being that is living, that will die, this entire process, I'm going through it completely alone. And then you look to your side and you look to your other side, and there are people with you who have the same ashes on their face or on their forehead or on their hand or something, you're like, we are all part of this experience that is not universal, or that is not so
unique
it is
to us.
Unique to us. It
Yeah.
is a universal experience, a universal truth that we are not alone in.
It's beautiful. No, I think that, and I love it's so funny. I was just listening to this song. I was this like folk bluegrass group called Applewood Road. I personally was new to them, and this song that I'm obsessed with is "To the Stars," and it's actually you were saying go to Stardust, and I'm really connected with that. I'm trying to figure out if I can figure out where wedge that song into our service, because I'm like, it kind of works. I'm going to make it work. But speaking about our service, our experience here, that will be on February 18th at noon.
February 18th at noon in the sanctuary.
What are we doing? You have some special stuff.
So we have some special stuff. So this is something based on a service that I created when I was in divinity school. And our Ash Wednesday service will be through the lens of like forest fires and their effect on an ecosystem.
Okay.
And this is like acknowledging the fact that many of the forest fires that we are having in our current day and age are not beneficial for ecosystems.
Right.
But coming from a background, so I was a biology major. I spent 4 years getting my bachelor's degree in biology, which at the beginning was more kind of like, I have a funky biology degree. It's really fun. Okay. But at the end of the degree, I was taking a lot more of my credits in conservation biology, in botany, in some of these more kind of like broad scale, like ecology classes.
Yeah. She says with a frog and mushrooms on her cardigan.
Yeah. Well, my first couple years were much more medical focused. So I took like cellular biology, anatomy and physiology, microbiology. There was something really, really funny about taking microbiology and immunology during a global pandemic.
Oh dear.
It makes your homework and test questions really funny.
Oh dear.
But coming from an ecological background, I often find that the language of biology to me speaks through, in the same way that to me Christ tells parables. I think that the earth is kind of its own parable in many ways. Okay. And sometimes I read an environment, read ecology, read an ecosystem in the same way that I would read the Bible. And so you find these like long extended metaphors where you're like, that's going in a sermon. And like so often that is where I find God. And I know for many other people, nature and the natural world is where they find God the most clearly.
For sure.
And so this Ash Wednesday is through the lens of a climate, an ecosystem that relies on forest fires, because those exist. There are, and you'll hear more about it if you come or watch the live stream. So I'm gonna like brush up on all my biology facts, which is very exciting.
Cool. Yeah.
But there are climates that rely on forest fires and are built and evolved to require them to be able to reproduce.
Right. And the important part of that is that those end up being naturally occurring forest fires.
Yeah.
Not like ones from negligent humans.
But there's also like so much of like land management can be responsible fire use. So like, and I know, I wish I did research before the podcast, but like indigenous peoples have been using fires to responsibly manage land for centuries. But it's just one of those things that it's not, because it's not like I'm chopping down all the trees. Like there's like, oh, you're not managing the land at all. It's like, no, we're actually managing the land way better. And like,
right.
we know exactly what we're doing. But the idea is that, so this service is kind of split up into 3 parts. And the first part is this overcrowding, which is kind of what happens. Like the reason that forest fires often happen is like the understory is overcrowded. There's so much brush and then there are some, like there's like the light is not able to get to the ground. You have all of this thing. And so, and then the fire itself. So it might be started by a lightning strike or something. And in this moment of this fire, even if the fire is quote unquote supposed to happen and expected by the very trees that have evolved to like, their seeds can only sprout and germinate if there is these high heats, and like their bark is made to resist fires. Like having a fire is still, destroying something and can still be scary. And there are still, creatures that are displaced. And then the final part of the service is kind of like what happens after this fire. So similarly, hopefully, if I do it correctly, the tone is like, okay, so here we are kind of like on the precipice of something needs to happen, something needs to change, because whatever is happening in the ecosystem is not conducive to growth. And then there is this fire where all we can see is the heat and the burning and the smoke in our eyes. And everything is disturbed. And then as that fire dies down, there is ash on the ground, there is quiet, there is this mourning, but also this potential. And we, throughout the month of Lent, hopefully, are being set up to hold the mourning and the potential, one in each hand, as we kind of walk forward.
Right.
Because obviously, recognizing your own mortality, having ashes physically placed on your body as this representation of your own mortality, it is like there is a mourning there is a uncertainty and a fear there, but also there's like fasting is like, oh, it's like a bummer, no candy. And so like I have been in a lot of faith communities where you're encouraged to pick up a spiritual habit and to start something new instead of giving something up, to like take something with you. But also I've heard people give things up of like, I had one, I forget if it was a past parishioner or something, who said that they gave up road rage for Lent. And like it, giving up, like it is such a fundamental shift to like disrupt yourself. And sometimes, I had one pastor that I worked with who like made the joke of like, oh, I'm giving up naked skydiving for Lent. But like, and so there is this idea of like, it can in the same way that you can be like, I have to go to church. You're like, like what do I have to give up for Lent? But like, if you are able to have the space to be like, what is something that would disrupt an unhealthy habit I have? Or like, what is something that would disrupt something I take for granted, or like bring some deeper, richer level to my life? And how can I move forward with that?
It's so interesting too, because I feel like when you have a disruption, right, our brains are wired to notice differences, right? Yeah. So when we disrupt our life, I feel like Lent sometimes feels really long because it's not just business as usual. It's not, you're dismissing, your brain doesn't just discard so much time because everything's the same, but your life has just shifted, or your experience has shifted so that you're noticing life more. Yeah. You're experiencing moments potentially more fully because there's a disruption. Yeah. I also think there's something, I was reading this book about like skeletal muscle and aging well through better health, yada, yada, yada. And she's doing a wave like a
you didn't need to tell them
like,
that.
Well, now they know.
I'm using my skeletal muscles.
I love it. But the comment of, I'm so bad about this stuff, but here we go.
Hey, I've got a biology degree.
Basically setting your day up with micro discomforts because this will tie in, I promise.
Keep talking.
So the idea that I feel like a lot of times in our culture, we're looking for greater comfort.
Yeah.
In every way that means. Physical comfort, mental comfort, just comfort. And the fact that we are removing discomfort so much means that when we have something happen, our emotional response is like we go into a much deeper place because we're operating under a much less resilient place. So that by having these sort of small discomforts in our lives, for instance, taking the stairs or like parking further away, I'm talking about physical discomforts here, but like being a little bit okay with the hard things makes it when something really hard comes by, we might not have as such an extreme, but our reaction is a little bit more resilient and we can get back to baseline a little bit easier. I'm saying this really badly, but I found it really interesting, this idea that like if we can embrace discomfort in a way that allows it in our lives without resisting it too hard. The idea was that like stress, I'll let you talk in a second, but the idea like stress, we shouldn't be avoiding stress so much. Yeah. That like actually minor stressors that challenge us without breaking us or challenges, just nudge us, are actually really good for us in the same way that lifting heavy weights is really good for us, which is inherently a stress on our body, but it's making us stronger. So I feel like there's an opportunity, Italian, but there's an opportunity in Lent to give ourselves small discomfort or like gift ourselves a little stressor that helps us notice things better, experience life a little more fully, that maybe we build some resilience or added strength in there because we've disrupted that kind of like business as usual kind of thing. Not that we need to go, I mean, life is stressful. Like I'm not pretending it's not, but I feel like also I have a very like avoidant personality. So like for me, this is a big challenge. This is a big challenge I'm giving myself because it's like, I want to like avoid that stuff. And so trying to just be a little bit braver and be a little more courageous because I know it's good for me. Yeah. And I'm still, this is me thinking out loud and trying to decide what I'm going to do for Lent because I don't know yet, but I'm thinking about it from that perspective, which isn't a perspective I've had before.
And I think that like, because I think sometimes Lent can have this like punishing quality. And I am not going to, that is not an experience that I have found fruitful. Okay. I can say that. Yeah. Is the idea of like Lent is like fasting and like punishing yourself kind of. Right. But I will not, claim to know the entirety of that perspective and that experience. Sure. But I think the idea of being like either what is something that I can add to enhance my spiritual life, or what is a way that I can tend to my spiritual life, or what is a way that I can reframe how I live to give myself a deeper ability to reflect on my life. Yeah. I think that all of those are kind of, and it's like kind of this like perfect amount of time. There's like 40 days. It's like a little too long for for you to like really like forget about it, but maybe long enough to pick up a habit of like doing gratitude journaling or doing a scriptural practice or like challenging yourself to make connections you otherwise would not have.
I mean, I feel like people kind of treat it like a spiritual New Year's
Day. Yeah, New Year's resolution.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think some people do.
Term limited.
Yeah, term limited. And there is also like, when you were talking about comfort and discomfort, there is a quotation that I mentioned in a sermon that I might have talked about on the podcast already, but the idea that church is a place where to make the uncomfortable comfortable and to make the people who are comfortable uncomfortable. And I also have this thing where so often I meet people, or like even I myself, I'm like, oh, my life is so hard. And then I like think about my life and I'm like, my life is not very hard. Really hard. And so it's one of those things where it's like also being able to recognize the sheer level of comfort that I have, even in those kind of minor discomforts. Like there's a lot of room in my life to be far more uncomfortable than I am. Sure. And so I think that having church be a space where you are challenged to confront, and I think there's, now I'm just thinking about a class I took in divinity school where we talked about a lot of these things. Like, I don't think that there's like necessarily great inherent value at like punishing yourself for no reason, or like I think it's more like, how can I learn and grow and spread love from this? Like, how can I recognize, how can I be like emotionally uncomfortable about the fact that I am so physically comfortable? Because I don't think like, I don't know, like
challenge it.
Like Black Plague, like whipping myself is gonna like prevent the next plague. But like recognizing that there is so much room for conversations, or room for spending more of my time thinking or acting in a way that is faithful. I think that that can be really beneficial. And one of my little theories about why certain kind of like hyper evangelical mega churches that have a very, very strict theology, why they have become increasingly popular in recent years, is because there is nothing more comfortable than having someone tell you exactly what you should believe with like 100% certainty, because it takes the load off of your own mind.
There's nothing more comfortable. That is like, it's like a comfort.
I think that for, and so if you show up to a church and you ask a pastor a question, the pastor goes, I don't know, that's a good question. There are some people who are like, you are supposed to tell me the answer.
Right.
And so like at Round Hill, I will never be like,
here's exactly what
God said. If someone says like, I can say like, oh, I think, or like from my approach, or like my experience, or like the people that I've worked with based on this scripture and this scripture, I would say more along the lines of this, like it is uncomfortable for some people to exist in kind of a realm of uncertainty. But that's also kind of what I love about like Holy Saturday, is like,
it's living in that space,
is like that space was given. Because, okay, if Jesus died on a cross and 45 seconds later went, I'm back. Like,
right.
Okay, maybe God doesn't want you to have any uncertainty. But there was a solid couple days there where you're like, I know what I'm supposed to think.
Yeah.
But that's really hard to believe when I just watched my friend, this man who I follow and trust and love, die in front of me.
Right. In a really horrific way.
And I don't know what's happening, and I don't know what I can believe.
Right.
And so there is this kind of,
I love like the disciples as avatars, because they're a little messy, or a lot messy, and I love them for it. They're little disasters, and it feel better.
And so it's just one of those things where it's like, there is this kind of holy liturgical calendar permission to be like, sometimes we don't. Also, if Jesus wanted us to be certain about things, he wouldn't have told so many stories. Like, there's supposed to be complicating factors in Christianity. There is supposed to be uncertainties. There's supposed to be, in my experience, there is supposed to be some kind of holy mystery. And I think that is uncomfortable, because isn't it so much easier to just have someone tell you exactly what to believe and exactly what to do, and if you do exactly this, everything will be perfect and everything will be good and you will go to heaven.
And there'll be no sorrow, and
if you
everybody will be happy.
And if you come up to me and you ask me, am I going to heaven? I'll be like, let's have a conversation about this. What does that mean to you? And like, that is a very different and much scarier thing.
It is.
Than just someone being like, well, if you brush your teeth with the left side first and hate these people and love these people, you will go to heaven.
Right. And tithe.
If you give us your money, oh my gosh, we're sounding awfully Protestant. If you buy these indulgences, you will go to heaven. And so, I think that the discomfort, and I think that, part of Lent is like holding the space of mortality, holding the space of growth. And mortality. And then if you, depending on what area you're in, if you're in a divinity school, you see this a lot, you get to walk around with ashes on your head. And that's also, to me, as someone who was not raised Christian, walking around with a cross on my forehead is like simultaneously very like liberating and very scary. Because even as an ordained minister, I am only now frequently becoming a recognizable, identifiable Christian in public spaces. And so Ash Wednesday is this interesting thing, especially if you have a noon service,
right,
where you're going about the rest of your day, unless you wash them off, which you can, but it might be a cop-out, where you're like, I am owning this experience that I just went through, this identity of,
which for Northeast American culture is really hard. We're shy about it.
Yeah, we're very, very shy, and we're very private.
Yeah.
And kind of like embarrassed.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where it's this like weird opportunity where you're like, am I gonna
wear this all day?
Am I gonna wear this all day? Am I gonna like go grocery shopping? Am I gonna go out?
I mean, I will say, so I am, so regular podcast listeners will know I'm from the South. It was not that experience in the South. It was very much like the cool kids had the ashes on their
and then you really hope that they're like cute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're going to be like taking a picture and posting it on the internet. It's like, it better be cute.
Okay, well, I'm older than that, and there wasn't social media when I was in school. So,
but everyone's going to see it. And if you got like the sloppy ashes, day ruined.
Over. It's over. But yeah, it's a very different experience of it. And
we can talk about this
so much. But this is like a 40-minute podcast already.
We did a great job. I have so much to say.
Nailed it. Drove it home. Which is to say, join us February 18th at noon, in person or online.
Thank you for your patience and your engagement.
Thanks for being here, guys. We appreciate you, and we'll see you back here whenever the next one gets recorded and edited. I've given up. No, I haven't given up. But no, we're so glad that you join us. We're so honored to be here. Do you know that we're coming up on our 250th episode?
We're going to have a cake.
We're going to do a whole thing. I like how you keep making me make cakes.
I don't get to eat cake often. And
that's true. You are, as a celiac person, that makes it hard.
Granted, would you make a cake I could eat? I don't know.
But I don't know. I try really hard. I usually make coconut macaroons for my gluten-free friends.
We'll think about it.
Okay, we'll talk. All right, and with that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Roundhill Radio is brought to you by the friends and members of Roundhill Community Church. For more information, please visit roundhillradio.org.